An elderly Texas gentleman asked a waiter to take a bottle of Merlot to an attractive woman. The waiter took the Merlot to the woman and said, "This is from the gentleman seated over there," indicating the sender. She regarded the wine for a second, not looking at the man, and decided to send a reply note to him. The waiter, who was lingering for a response, took the note from her and conveyed it to the gentleman. The note read, "For me to accept this bottle, you need to have a Mercedes in your garage, $1 million in the bank, and 7 inches in your pants." After reading the note, the Texan decided to compose one of his own in return. He folded the note, handed it to the waiter, and instructed him to return it to the woman. It read, "For your information, I have a Ferrari Maranello, a BMW Z8, a Mercedes CL 600, a Porsche Turbo, a Toyota Prius, and a Matrix in my garage. Beautiful homes in Aspen, Colorado, and Miami, and a 10,000-acre ranch in Texas. There is over $20 million in my bank account, but not even for a woman as beautiful as you would I cut 3 inches off. Just send the bottle back." A cabbie picks up a nun. She gets into the cab and notices that the very handsome cab driver won't stop staring at her. She asks him, "Why are you staring?" He replies, "I have a question to ask, but I don't want to offend you." She answers, "My son, you cannot offend me. When you're as old as I am and have been a nun as long as I have, you get a chance to see and hear just about everything. I'm sure that there's nothing you could say or ask that I would find offensive." "Well, I've always had a fantasy to have a nun kiss me," he says. She responds, "Well, let's see what we can do about that. You have to be single, and you must be Catholic." The cab driver is very excited and says, "Yes, I'm single and Catholic." "Okay," the nun says, "pull into the next alley." The nun fulfills his fantasy with a kiss that would make a hooker blush. But when they get back on the road, the cab driver starts crying. "My dear child," said the nun, "why are you crying?" "Forgive me, but I've sinned. I lied, and I must confess. I'm married, and I'm Jewish." The nun says, "That's okay. My name is Steve, and I'm going to a Halloween party." Airman Jones was assigned to the induction center where he was to advise new recruits about their government benefits, especially their GI insurance. It wasn't long before Captain Smith noticed that Airman Jones had almost a 100% record for insurance sales, which had never happened before. Rather than ask about this, the captain stood in the back of the room and listened to Jones's sales pitch. Jones explained the basics of GI insurance to the new recruits and then said, "If you have GI insurance and go into battle and are killed, the government has to pay $200,000 to your beneficiaries. If you don't have GI insurance and you go into battle and get killed, the government has to pay only a maximum of $6,000. Now," he concluded, "which bunch do you think they are going to send into battle first?" A newfie went hunting one day in Ontario and bagged 3 ducks. He put them in the bed of his pickup truck and was about to drive home when he was confronted by an ornery game warden who didn't like newfies. The game warden ordered the newfie to show his hunting license, and the newfie pulled out a valid Ontario hunting license. The game warden looked at the license, then reached over and picked up one of the ducks, sniffed its tail, and said, "This duck ain't from Ontario. This is a Quebec duck. You got a Quebec hunting license?" The newfie reached into his wallet and produced a Quebec hunting license. The game warden looked at it, then reached over and grabbed the second duck, sniffed its tail, and said, "This ain't no Quebec duck. This duck is from Manitoba. You got a Manitoba license?" The newfie reached into his wallet and produced a Manitoba hunting license. The game warden was extremely frustrated at this point, and he yelled at the newfie, "Just where the hell are you from?" The newfie turned around, bent over, dropped his pants, and said, "You tell me, you're the expert." A woman went to a lawyer to discuss divorcing her husband. "Don't you love him anymore?" asked the lawyer. "Oh, I still love him," the woman replied, "but all he ever wants is lovemaking. I can't take it." "Instead of divorcing him, why don't you try charging him every time he wants to make love?" the lawyer suggested. The exhausted wife decided to give the plan a try. As soon as she walked into the house that night, her husband started in on her. "Not so fast," she said. "From now on, it will be $10 in the kitchen, $20 in the living room, and $50 in the bedroom." "Well then," he said, "here is $50. The wife began walking to the bedroom. "Hold on," he said, grabbing her hand. "That'll be 5 times in the kitchen." A man was walking in the street when he heard a voice. "Stop! Stand still! If you take one more step, a brick will fall on your head and kill you." The man stopped, and a big brick fell right in front of him. Astonished, he went on. After a while, he was going to cross the road again. Once more, the voice shouted, "Stop! Stand still! If you take one more step, a car will run over you and you will die." The man did as he was instructed, just as a car came careening around the corner, barely missing him. "Where are you?" the man asked. "Who are you?" "I am your guardian angel," the voice answered. "Oh yeah?" the man asked. "And where the hell were you when I got married?" A noted psychiatrist was a guest at a blonde gathering, and his hostess naturally broached the subject in which the doctor was most at ease. "Would you mind telling me, doctor," she asked, "how you detect a mental deficiency in somebody who appears completely normal?" "That's easy," he replied. "You ask them a simple question which everyone should be able to answer with no trouble. If they hesitate, that puts you on the right track." "What sort of question would you ask, doctor?" "Well, I might ask him, Captain Cook made 3 trips around the world and died during one of them. Which one?" The blonde thought a moment, then said with a nervous laugh, "You wouldn't happen to have another example, would you? I must confess I don't know much about history." A young boy enters a barber shop and the barber whispers to his customer, "This is the dumbest kid in the world. Watch while I prove it to you." The barber puts a dollar bill in one hand and 2 quarters in the other, then calls the boy over and asks, "Which do you want?" The boy takes the quarters and leaves. "What did I tell you?" said the barber. "That kid never learns." Later, when the customer leaves, he sees the same young boy coming out of the ice cream store. "Hey, may I ask you a question? Why did you take the quarters instead of the dollar bill?" The boy licked his cone and replied, "Because the day I take the dollar, the game is over." A man and his ever-nagging wife went on vacation in Jerusalem. While they were there, the wife passed away. The undertaker told the husband, "You can have her buried here in the Holy Land for $1,500, or we can have her shipped back home for $50,000. The husband thought about it and told the undertaker he would have her shipped back home. The undertaker asked him, "Why would you spend $50,000 to have her shipped home when you could have a beautiful burial here and it would only cost $1,500? The husband replied, "Long ago, a man died here, was buried here, and 3 days later rose from the dead. I just can't take that chance." A mother had 3 virgin daughters. They were all getting married within a few weeks of each other, but mom was a bit worried about how their sex life would get started. So she made them all promise to send a postcard from their honeymoons with a few words on how marital procreation felt. The first girl sent a card from Hawaii 2 days after the wedding. The card said nothing but Maxwell House. Mom was puzzled at first, but then went to the kitchen and got out the Maxwell House coffee jar. It said, "Good till the last drop." Mom blushed but was pleased for her daughter. The second girl sent her postcard from California a week after the wedding, and the card read Benson and Hedges. Mom now knew to go straight to her husband's cigarettes, and she read from the Benson and Hedges pack, "Extra long, king size." She was again slightly embarrassed but still happy for her daughter. The third girl left for her honeymoon in the Caribbean. Mom waited for a week. Nothing arrived. Another week went by and still nothing. Then, after a whole month, a card finally arrived. Written on it, with shaky handwriting, were the words, "British Airways." Mom took out her latest Harper's Bazaar magazine, flipped through the pages, fearing the worst, and finally found the ad for the airline. The ad said, 3 times a day, 7 days a week, both ways. Mom fainted.